Y'all ain't gonna believe me, but I don't know if it's because of me and Trayvon sleeping so close together or what, but
That's all right. Come on.
I got this, almost the same thing.
That's all right.
But it's amazing, and I thank God for the confirmation. But if I were to have a title today, it would be "Run Your Race."
All right.
He told us to run.
Yes.
And he told us to get our vision. I kid you not, at the beginning of my notes it says Habakkuk 2:2. And I just put it there. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna put that in there. But I'm just put it at the front of the parentheses. I was like, I'm just gonna put it there because it just seems right.
Come on.
And I thank God for using my brother. So I just like Trayvon, God kinda had me scriptures bouncing. I was hopping through there. And it's amazing when you really start to read, and you go in with a purpose of finding a message and finding something that jumps out to you, and you find yourself getting lost in the word. I jumped in Ecclesiastes and I was reading one. I told Trevor, I said, I read one scripture, one verse, and I wanted to know the context of what it was being used, so I read the chapter. I was like, man, I want to know what was really going on. So then I read the whole book. All right, before I knew it, I was like, Lord, come on, I gotta figure out what. Those 2 o'clock in the morning, I need to hit me with something. And he was hitting me with some pretty hard facts. I felt like I was reading so much, I was like, dang, this is me. I was like, I didn't know you talking to me, so I'm reading, and I was all like, all right, let me get back. I was like, because I can't just go. It's you Sunday. So I got something that really I feel like can relate to each and every person. It's something, you know me, I'm a sports guru, and he called me with the title "Run Your Race." And in this race of life, like Trayvon said, we have to know your vision, what you're aiming for, what you're striving for, where you want to be. And our coach is God, our Father. He is our coach. And when I thought back to it, it really made me think of my track days and my Uncle Joe and how he coached us so well. But you look back, and the coach always knew his runners, and he knew who was best at what, and who would fit best in which race. And it brought me to Proverbs 16:9. And in that, I don't know if y'all want to go there with me. I have quite a few scriptures. It says, "The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps."
Yes.
And that's just like in the way, and it hit me. So I was like, that's just like in track. I knew I wanted to run 200 because I was like, it's not so far as the 400. I was like, but I want to run 2. But Uncle Joe was like, man, you run that 400 so pretty, this, that. And I'm like, man, my heart's telling me that I want this 200. I ain't trying to run that extra 200. But just like that, we might be looking at a certain thing, and we might be saying, God, like Trayvon said, like, and it was me. As I'm studying, I was speaking to myself because I felt myself, in my vision, I was striving for the material things. I was striving for the money, and I felt like that was on my heart, and I had to re-examine and line my vision up with the word. Where does that fit? I started looking. I was like, and it was all over Ecclesiastes talking about how chasing those things is like chasing the wind. Yeah. And I was like, man, I don't want to be chasing the wind. Like, you ain't gonna catch the wind. Like, nah. So I had to reevaluate my vision and line it up with the words. So that's what you have to do when you're running your race. And so, just like your coach knows what is best for you in your sport, God knows what's best for you in your life.
That's it.
Because in Matthew 7:13-14, it says, and this is talking about where we're trying to go in the race that we're running. It says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and may enter through it, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." So when I was reading that, it really made me think of, and it helps me relate in whatever way. I want you to find yourself when you're reading and you're finding a hard time making it life applicable. Try and make it to something that you can relate. So for me, when I was reading this, I thought about that, and I thought about when I'm running my race, all the little things the ways that might seem easy, the easy routes. Because, like he said, the road is going to be wide. It's going to be easy. You got time to go here. You got time to go there. But in order to get to where God has planned for you to go, you're going to have to walk a fine line. You're going to have to walk a fine line.
Yeah.
And going back to my analogy, it brought me to whenever I was preparing for my race. It started during practice. That's whenever that's whenever the champions are made, like they say. Champions are made during practice.
Yeah.
So God took me over to 2 Timothy 2:15.
Yeah.
It says, "Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth."
Yeah.
So, for me, it said to me, I know during practice, I had to show Uncle Joe that I was going to work hard during practice, so I was going to show up during the meet. Because anybody that was on the track team know the good and well, if you was out there half doing it during practice, he's like, I guess you don't want to run this weekend. I guess you don't want to get out on track and perform. And it was fun. So that was one of those things you didn't want to miss out in. But during practice, it was not fun. It was one of those things you was thinking, that was the time when you literally could think of all the other things that you could be doing. Like Trayvon said, the distractions.
Yeah.
You just start thinking, man, I could literally be hanging out with my friends right now. It's hot outside. I could be getting snow cones with my friends. I could be chilling, watching TV, doing this. I could be on the PlayStation. And it's those distractions. That's the enemy trying to talk to you. And it's not always going to come as blatant as that.
That's good.
Sometimes it can be things that you don't think are being a distraction, but it starts off as a little thing, and before you know it, it's requiring more of your time.
That's it.
And it's requiring more of this part of your life. And then after a while you might get too deep, and then it takes somebody kind of helping you re-examine what you're doing, and you start to see how off track that you have gone and strayed away from what your vision actually is.
That's it.
Much like Trayvon, I mean, he kind of got us started. I wrote down my vision, and it's on my laptop, and I tried to make it as plain as possible for myself. And I'm still refining mine to line it up with the word, like Trayvon said, because I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything that is going to be in vain. I don't want to waste any time. I don't want to take any more steps than I have to. Like in track, when we come out the blocks, he taught us to put our best foot forward. Because sometimes you might step out the blocks, and if you put that first foot down and then you step out, you just wasted one step.
That's it.
So you got to practice. It's that practice that you put in, and that practice for us as Christians is reading our Bible. It's bearing down and making sure it's the discipline of waking up in the morning, getting down on your knees, thanking God for waking you up this morning. Sometimes we take it for granted. I have to catch myself, and I'm just now getting back to what I'm constantly doing no matter where I am. I'm thanking God for the food that He's provided for me. Even if it's a little meal. Some people don't have any food. And I find myself saying, oh, God knows I'm thankful. But does He really?
That's good.
Does He really? Like Brandon said, you want to make sure He knows your voice. So any face-to-face time that you can have with God, it helps. It helps. Because you want to make sure that the Lord knows. That hit me, Brandon. You talked to me that one day. You said, you were like, man, that jumped out at me. Will He know my voice? And I started thinking, I was like, will the Lord know my voice? When I come to talk to Him, will He have to think about it? Who is that? Or when He hears my voice, will He say, Kilo, come on up. I hear you. And so it really stuck with me. And so I was like, and I had to make sure myself, am I practicing to prepare myself for the race that I want to prepare myself for the vision and put myself in the right place whenever Saturday comes? I know Saturday was our day that we had our track meets. Good to see my Uncle Joe in here today. And Saturday was the day that we that we look forward to.
Yeah.
And so our walk of our race, we should look forward to coming out and performing. Because if we are prepared and we study to show ourselves approved, we won't have to be so. I feel like sometimes we might not really want to walk this or want to walk so narrow, is because that sometimes we might. I know I speak for myself, is that I'm not prepared that if somebody comes to me, and I was always afraid that somebody would come to me and ask me to tell them about God, I wasn't going to be ready. So God started testing me. Like I told y'all at work, he started having people just ask me about God. Just out of nowhere. Like I'm just ringing somebody up. So you believe in God? I'm like, yeah. Yeah. But so just things like that, we have to prepare ourselves for the race. So let me get back on track here. Yeah, because I mean, when we're preparing ourselves, we often say certain things like we're striving to be more like God and we're striving to follow in His footsteps. But yet we don't want to take the time to dig into the Word and pray and create a relationship with Him. And what does that say to God? It's just lip music. You just running your gums for no reason. It's just the words is just coming out your mouth and just hitting the ground. They're hitting the ceiling, not even going out of the building. And so I really start to think I have to create a relationship and not only talk the talk, but I have to walk the walk. So after we have properly prepared ourselves during the week, and Friday comes, we know that the next day, Saturday, that was showtime. Saturday was the day. You wake up happy, you feeling good, you ready to go out there and like Nike, just do it. You're like, I'm just about to go out here and so we come out to the track and you line up for your race. And when you're out there in this race, sometimes I know in track I would zone out so much. And I'm trying to trigger, for me, I'm trying to trigger that discipline that I had in track and my sports. I mean, I had a totally different, I love football, but in track, for some reason, I really had a different zone that I would trigger. And it was so weird, it's hard, like I literally would tell you that I zoned out. Like, once I would be nervous, I would have the bubble guts, but as soon as that gun fired, I kid you not, everything went away, and I was looking straight ahead of me, and it was like I literally had tunnel vision. It was so weird because after I got done with my race, I would look back and I would try and remember the race, and it was a blur. But it was because I was so zoned in, and I'm like, how can I get to that point in my walk with Christ? How can I be so tunnel vision that nothing else around me is, all I see is where I'm going and what I gotta do to get there. And so it was, I had a system that I would do when I was running. And
come on, baby, you can do it.
And it all went back to where everything that I studied, that I practiced during the week. 90, 60, 120. And how I prepared to run that race. See, you might have your vision, but you also, not only do you have to have a vision, you have to make a plan to how you're going to make it to that vision. You can say, I want to be here, but then you got to say, what am I going to do to get there?
Yeah.
So in my race, I was like, I want to be first in the 400. What do I have to do to be first in the 400? Well, I know I got to come out real fast on that first curve. After I come out that first curve, relax, keep it, stride glide. Come around that corner, I feel it. Can I kick it or should I wait? I kick it there and finish the race. So but in my head the whole time, I kid you not, it was like replaying, and I had it, and I was like staying on track with every single thing. And that's how we have to be in our life. As we're walking, we have to constantly be reminding ourselves of what we're doing, what we're striving for. As we're going through day to day, you gotta be like, all right, today I know that I want to be more Christ-like. So in order to be more Christ-like, what do I do today? I'm gonna reach out to somebody that's in need. I'm gonna give somebody some words of encouragement that might be going through a tough time.